All right, it's 3 o'clock. Let's call the meeting to order since we're on the air, and I think we have been for a minute while we've been chatting here. So let's have our call to order. And Jeannie.
Okay, Harry Cartwright.
Present.
Yay!
Present.
Yay! Ashley Dunphy is absent. Linda Feuder.
Present.
Ed McBride.
Present.
Ron Willison.
Present.
Welcome back, Harry.
And posting of the agenda.
The agenda was posted on or before April 19th.
And approval of the minutes. Any changes to the minutes?
There are no minutes.
Oh, that's right, we didn't meet. I forgot.
But you do need to approve the February
Approve the February.
minutes that were in your previous packet.
So moved.
Second? Somebody had a second, and I can't second.
I second it, but there are no minutes.
No.
February.
The February.
Oh, sorry.
February.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye.
I,
Treasurer's report. Oh, I'm sorry, added starters. Any added starters? No? And any public comments? Jacqueline, Peter, nothing? No comments?
They'll
Any
have
public comments?
Still have reports.
Only private, right, Jacqueline? Just private. Just those private Facebook messages. And then let's move on to the treasurer's report.
Treasurer's report. Okay, here we go. If you look at 4918, Jeannie and I had to refresh our memories a little bit about what's going on here. And I wanted her to talk about 51026, just so everybody understands what that money is out there on the end. That's your book money, Jeannie.
Okay, so the account number 51026 is the trust fund books, and each year you have approved $10,000 from the future library projects account and $10,000 from the Kropitzer Trust donation account. And then what we do is we take that and put the sum of the $20,000 sum into this trust fund books account and then buy books. We buy nonfiction and we buy large print. And so at the end of the year, we will have a little bit of a balance left over, but it's our intention and hopefully your understanding that we would carry that forward and just keep going with that money, because it's hard to come to a zero balance at the end of the year. And so I just wanted to make sure that you all are aware that next year it may be a $22,000, $23,000 account, even though you approved 20. Okay?
Yeah, I wanted clarification of that because we had said all leftover funding would go back to the trust fund. But I think hearing what Jeannie had to say, that is the best for this. And she squirrels away every penny. So I think it's important we leave that and then we reinvest
My
our
librarians are frugal, and one of them has 61 cents left in their budget. They can't find a 61-cent book.
The other item is the patio furniture and
Patio furniture? You mean Wellwood patio?
no, the library furniture. And Jeannie, that will be paid on arrival of the furniture.
Correct.
So that's hanging out.
Yes,
there.
we paid a deposit, and then we'll pay the balance when
Right.
the furniture arrives.
Then we went back for about 4 years and hunted down all of the money from the Wellwood patio to figure out why this number is what it is. And there has been budgeted items that have been carried over and carried over and carried over. And so together we figured out this is the amount that you've got to work with over here, 148. That is what is left, and that is what the board said would be approved at this time for whatever's going to happen on that patio. The other page is also just a track record. The monies have been returned to the trust fund that have been left over. We are looking at $8,500 interest, but we're hoping to have a dialogue with the finance director to see if we can do something to make more interest on our money. It's not doing very well for a long, long time. The items 2017-28, those are all the things that have been returned from the sunscreen and the LED project. So we put back into the trust fund about $22,000, which is left over from those projects. The other small items are gifts and donations. I think that's pretty clear at this point. We do have a couple of gifts, which I have forgotten what's happened to them. Grace Jablow, did you figure out?
The money was put into the future library projects account, but it wasn't this year, it was in a previous year.
It was previously, so I had forgotten that. And there's one more gift out, the Corliss, Mr. Corliss has.
Right, I haven't told you
Yeah.
about that, but we've been notified that the Ray Corliss estate has listed the Library Trust Fund as a recipient of some money, but we don't know how much, but
No.
we'll let you know when we get that.
Anything else?
That's it.
All right. Any questions? No?
I have a question for staff. So at this point, assuming budget's going to be fine, but knowing that it may not, I mean, would we expect at some point you may come back and ask for some additional funds for this year? Is there any anticipation of that, or how do we stand?
Well, our current fiscal year that we're in right now, we are fine.
Yeah.
We'll be fine for the rest of the year. And then next year, we are under the hope that our budget will be flat and everything will be approved. We can manage within our budget. There may be some extenuating circumstances or new projects or something that we might want to bring to you. So I wouldn't say that, the bottom line is the hard rock bottom line. So I would hope that you would always keep an open mind if some new project comes up that we need to talk about. So, yeah.
Anyone else? All right, so moving on. Ashley's the library liaison, the Friends Library liaison, right? So would we have a reporter? Would Jacqueline
Linda,
fill in? Or Linda, have you been doing that for Ashley?
Oh.
Friends,
I'm sorry.
The Friends of the Palm Springs Library?
Well, I think Jackie is here, and Jackie can speak to projects or important events.
yeah, so Jackie will give the report.
Yeah,
Jackie, if
Jackie.
you want to give us a brief report? Or a long one, if you prefer.
Push the button,
That's
Jackie.
green.
Good girl.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. I always have trouble figuring this out, but I know the year is the year. We have a fiscal year, but our Friends year for planning always starts in April. So we had our annual meeting in March, and it was a great event. We were fortunate enough to have it at the Amin Casa, which is a little boutique hotel on Arenas. Amato. I get those two mixed up. But anyway, so it was a lovely event, and we had our friends, and we had a great speaker. This used to be the former home of Gloria Swanson, so we kind of had the old movie theme going, and we had a speaker, and then we had our annual event, and Jeannie gave a report. It was very, very well attended, and we got a lot of great feedback, but it was our way of thanking our friends and our members and updating them on what we had accomplished this year, which we are feeling very great about the previous year of being involved with Palm Springs Speaks and getting a lot more visibility to the Friends and hopefully bringing it to the library and being involved with 1PS for the Candidates Forum and just being involved more with other organizations in the community. And of course, Modernism was a great event for the two, that we had a home tour at Dr. Stevens' home and also a great lecture here at the library. So for next year, we are really going to be concentrating on building up membership. We really need to bring more friends in, and especially with what's coming down the pike, whatever it may be, we need the support of the community to be a part of the Friends and get them involved and get their feedback and so forth. So that's and also to bring a lot of attention to social media. We are really kind of like far behind in what we could be doing with social media for the Friends. So we have a plan in place for that as well. Our book sales are doing great. Thank you, Jeannie and the library staff, because they gave us an extra big giant shelf, and our numbers are staggering us every month. So we really feel great about that, and we are so grateful to the library staff who are our cashiers sometimes, although they probably have better things to do. So that's kind of our plan for next year. We will continue to have Modernism events. We will continue to have an annual event. We're going to sort of scale down a little bit on having any more events and then concentrating on volunteering at library events and, again, having more of a presence in the community and also increasing our membership. That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And so now let's move on to our legislative action and our 9A, the main library renovation. And I think at this point we should welcome Lisa Middleton and Christy Holstage, or our subcommittee from the City Council, and thank them both for attending today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. Long overdue getting here, and we're glad to finally have the chance to talk with all of you.
Well, at this point, I don't think we have much on the library renovation other than just a general discussion. We had the architect meeting, I think, a while back. The only good news, I guess, depending on what you consider good news, is that the mall has been purchased and that COD is going in there. So if we do decide we want to partner with them, there's no impetus now to doing that. As for the main library renovation, obviously it still needs to be renovated. It still needs new bathrooms and plumbing and lighting and everything else. So I guess we just open it up to a general discussion. I don't have any specific points on this to cover, so anyone else, please just feel free to chime in.
As part of the subcommittee that initially evaluated the proposals from the architects, I think that from my experience, and I will speak for Harry because he has much more experience around this than I do, I feel like it is upon us, looking at the amount of money it would take to renovate the current building, that we should evaluate what a new building would cost as well, just if nothing else, so that we know what that looks like and explore all of our options there. So I think that was pretty loud and clear from most of us at that meeting. I felt that way. And staff, the same thing, because it was, and I'm sorry I didn't bring my packet, I had it sitting out, how much they proposed. It was about 18 million, one of them?
Mm-hmm.
For the full renovation?
Yeah.
15, I thought.
It was
15.
15.
But that was
3 years
18
ago.
today.
Yeah,
4 or 5
right,
years
yeah.
ago.
It's certainly more than
yeah.
that to do.
Yeah.
And thinking about that, and so when we looked at the staff, the city staff at that point, I think giving them the direction that let's look at something new made a lot of sense. So that's just my comment.
I might comment that that 15,000 we discovered did not include paying Davis-Bacon wages.
Oh, really?
No,
Million.
which would, 15 million, which would add probably 3 million more
Oh, that's
to that
interesting.
figure, but that's where the 18
That's
came
true.
from.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And in fact, that was 4 or 5 years ago.
right.
So I'm of the opinion we ought to just put the renovation of the current building in abeyance until we see what would a new building cost and how would we arrange with the College of the Desert to do that.
I would agree with that. I think we are pretty much in a different direction right now. The library does need to be renovated just for any usage. It's just not the library anymore. I think we have spent a great deal of money. The trustees have had several drawings done over the years. Historically, people just laugh at me and say, oh, really, that's the 12th renovation. And you should know that, Ronnie. So I think we should just move to cease that product until we do our strategic plan. I think it's the city's responsibility because it is your building. I say your, it's all of our building. There's just no more money to pump into drawings and plans right now when I think the 4 organizations are really looking at a freestanding new iconic building. Where that will be, I think is going to, be revealed to us as we move down the plan about money and what our foundation is going to be able to do in terms of capital fundraising. And it will all happen when I'm not here, but I think we cannot keep pushing the wheel down. But I do say to both of you, whatever usage for that beautiful iconic building, I see it as the next planning commission or building, that I keep saying that. Big spacious drawing tables and room for the public to come into. You will have a use for that building, there is no doubt in my mind. And it is, the structure is falling apart. The plumbing, those kinds of things that there's been no money put into it. So having said that, do you want a motion that we,
Well, I'd like to make another comment.
okay,
if
good,
that's all right.
good, Harry.
One of the reasons, I'm a retired library director. I ran big library systems all over the country. And the last library I worked at was director. We built or renovated 17 buildings. And one thing I learned from that is renovating a building costs more money than buying a new building. It just works that way. And the other thing is, the building we have now was built in
75.
74, 75.
Opened in 75.
And libraries operated differently then than they do now. If you go into a library that was built in the last 4 or 5 years, they are totally different in concept and how they operate because libraries have changed. We don't have reference rooms anymore because everything is online. We don't have huge stacks of magazines in back rooms anymore because everything's online. So the whole concept of what, and we don't even have reference desks anymore because people do it themselves online. You know, so a new library, a state-of-the-art art library, is what really Palm Springs needs. We have an iconic art museum. We should have a similar building that when they come here, tourists and our visitors, they go to that building because they've heard about it. And it's a modern, up-to-date, what libraries are today. So I'm a big supporter of a new library, as you can tell. Sorry, I'm
No,
done.
we agree, and I think in looking at the plans we've drawn over the years, it doesn't function for us anymore. Moving the kids' room over to the staff room, etc. It's just moving pieces of a puzzle. And it's been years, what's going to happen to this building? And we've always had that discussion. And quite frankly, that's not our problem. But the new library and our strategic plan, what we want and where our needs are, that's what we need to focus on, because just moving walls around in there does not meet the need of Jeannie's direction and Julie's hard work and these women who plan all of these wonderful functions. And it should be the meeting place of the city. We should be offering theater, we should be offering rooms for study. Our computer facilities should be state-of-the-art and big. And so we're together on working hard to plan
So if you want to
a
make a
new
motion.
instruction.
Would you like to hear what Lisa has to say?
No motion
Before you
needed
make a
yet.
motion.
Sure.
But I will say one thing before I ask them to
Okay.
speak. And I've been on this board for 10 years, and I think we've spent $350,000 or more on
Easily.
plans. Could it be $500,000?
Yeah.
On expanding, added 20,000 square feet, renovating the building. I've always been a proponent of keeping the library there because it is a beautiful, I mean, it might look like a bunker outside. I've never liked those sloped walls. It always looked like a Nazi bunker. But inside, it's a beautiful building. Beautiful skylights, great glass, wonderful design, really functional for a space initially as a library. But as we've done all these plans and stuff over the years, I've come to the conclusion that with phasing in the construction and the amount of craziness it would cause there and where we would move and that it would take years to do that, it doesn't make financial or logistical sense, which is a shame because it is a beautiful building and I'm sure it could be used for something. But it's just not going to function in the way we want it to, and do we want that ton of a, we've dragged this out already 10 years. I mean, honestly, one of the weird things about that is that building's not even had a lick of paint on it in 20 years. So there's definitely been a lot of major deferred maintenance, which unfortunately has kind of made the building, you know, if this had been kept up over the years, like we paid to put a new roof on, we paid to do the LED sign, we paid to do the sunscreen, which is great, that's what the money is there for. But at the same time, if the building had been maintained over the years, it would now have gotten to the point where it's $15 million, you know, it would have been $100,000 a year to maintain it properly. And yeah, the city's had a lot of budget problems over those years, so that's been a main issue. And I can see why it wasn't done, but I think it's led us to the point that we don't have much choice. It's kind of the same way as the Plaza Theater, you know, it needs millions of dollars in renovation, and what do? You want to keep the building, it's historic, it's useful, but at the same time, and that was part of what my thing about a new one was, well, what will that building be used for? There's never been an answer for that. We've never had a discussion or study on that. And I think that's something, I mean, really, we will need to do the new building, but we really need to, I think, equally concentrate on what we're going to do with that. We can't just abandon that park. We can't abandon that facility. We need to have some plan for that before we move out.
I was thinking about this, and it's been a while since we saw those plans. I guess, again, for staff, I mean, the two firms, I think, did an excellent job at showing us how we could transform that building for that amount of money. And they even, if you guys recall, they admitted the budget we're saying now will not be the budget by the time we get to it. So it's going to be even more. And I think that just became evident to all of us that even with that talent and looking at it, we've just outgrown that facility. But I was thinking about those two firms, and I'm assuming that we have gone back to them and have said that, or maybe we do that now, that we have rejected, because I think both those firms would be ideal to pick up a new building plan at some point, and I'm sure the city will use them again. But I just think that we all agree that we've just kind of outgrown our home. It's time to raise a new one. So,
Lisa, Christie?
I think I got the short straw and get to go first.
I can switch that. Christie?
We trade off. It's pretty good. First thing, before I say anything else, is I'm sure glad Harry's back.
Thank you. There we go.
Yeah. And I want to thank all of you for your passion around libraries. You're certainly sitting across the table from people who are also passionate about libraries and know what they mean to a community and what they have meant to each of us in terms of being in seats like this today would not have happened but for public libraries.
This is why I have her go first, by the way.
And when I hear comments about wanting a library that's an iconic library, that is in a building that people want to come visit, these are things that the people who were planning the library that we have now in the early 1970s had in mind, and they built a facility that achieved that, and it opened, and we are now over 40 years down the road, and we have to look at something else. To the comment that was made that Harry made about rehabilitation of existing buildings, I am absolutely thrilled with what we are doing with Fire Station number 4 and saving that architecture. But had we not decided to save that architecture and just simply build a new fire station, we would have firefighters sitting in that station, I suspect, right now today, for less money than we will spend. Now, that budget's not what we're facing with a library, but rehabilitating existing buildings is a very expensive undertaking. As to whether or not we move out of that building, when you start to look at some of the projected numbers for rehabilitation, they do look very daunting. And I can't sit here as a member of the Budget Committee and tell you I think that there is $15, $18, $20 million that's going to appear in our budgets that are going to allow us to make those kinds of investments. In order to build a building ourselves, independent of anyone else, we would be relying on a partial funding from the city and philanthropy, and it would have to be rather substantial philanthropy to make it happen and make it be the kind of building that we want. The other alternative that has been discussed a number of times is doing something in conjunction with the College of the Desert. They now own the property at the mall. I was at a presentation yesterday. Their initial budget for the rehabilitation of that campus is $240 million.
I thought it was going to be close to 300 million initially. They were saying.
And it may. And I'm told that money is largely there.
Yeah, they have a full $300 million bond measure. They've been sitting on the money for years.
So, to not have a conversation with the College of the Desert as to what we could do in conjunction with them, I think would be irresponsible. So it's a conversation we need to have. Will that conversation lead to us making a decision that that's what we want to do? That's something that personally I'm looking for all of you, for the Friends and the Foundation to weigh in and provide advice and direction as we move forward. We will want to engage the larger community. But I think it is something that that we need to begin and begin soon. I believe, from my understanding, COD is ready to talk with us when we're ready to talk with them.
Can I ask, how do we get that conversation going? I mean, who's gonna contact who and say, let's talk?
Who's going to make the
Sure.
deal?
So Lisa's so eloquent. So that's why she always goes first. She covers all of the topics. I'm usually just the direct, at the end.
Sorry.
No. So I sit on this city council subcommittee as well as the COD subcommittee. So I'm happy. I think that's an important role for me since I'm on both of those subcommittees to start that conversation.
Excellent.
And so
Excellent.
I'm happy to do that. Lisa and I were just saying, and it was Lisa's idea, that we should bring this up at a future council meeting soon and get that ball rolling and get permission from the council to do
To go
that.
ahead.
So I can do that this coming council meeting and put it on an agenda for the next one, and then we can set up
I love it.
meetings from there.
Christy, I'm thinking about our strategic plan, because we have to know what we want, and we're not there yet, in my opinion. So if we would meet prior to that being completed, what would be the conversation? What would we be discussing with them?
And can you tell me a bit, because I was going to ask you that follow-up question, tell me about your strategic plan process and when that is and for how long?
Mr. McBride?
Yeah, so I can even do my report now. So,
Don't jump ahead.
is that okay, Chair? Several months ago, it became clear to us after looking at the proposals from the architects that one of the things that was missing, and they even asked us for, is a program level plan and how we would use the space that they were trying to redesign. We've done those, and I know the staff have done those plans in the past, but it became pretty clear we need to update it. It also needs just to be updated in general with some more public input and a lot of people at the table. So we voted as a trustee to spend the money to pay for consultants to come in and write this plan for us. I supported staff because of just my background and experience, and we wrote an RFP. The city issued that. We have the responses back. We have 4 of those. I can't tell you. You could find out, but I can't tell you. And we're on a time frame of giving our feedback to procurement on the 11th of May, meeting on the 17th of May, and then they will select who that's going to be. Please, Jeannie can jump in here, but we anticipate over the summer having them do the contract, getting organized for us to kick this in probably in the fall. And the vision in all of this is that the foundation, the Friends, the trustees, staff, the 2 of you, other members of the community that we're working on identifying would come in and participate in this process to dream big and figure out what we need for this building and come back with, not the building, let me back up, the program, right? And facing that program, then we would, I think, be able to have a blueprint of what a building might have to look like. I know that's more than you asked for, but I think that knowing that and having a conversation with the College of the Desert, I think we even want them at the table because wherever we go, we're going to be serving a college campus in our community of students that we have to serve as well, right? So it's a big process, but I would expect us to have that process done 6-8 months,
By
luckily.
Christmas, by December, don't you
Yeah.
think? If we all work hard.
They take a
It
long
depends
time
on
with the
the-
committee,
Oh,
and
you're
the community
right.
meetings. We did this,
We'll see.
what, 5, 6 years, 7 years ago? How long did we do the last plan?
Oh, let's see, I've done 2 or
before
3
I-
since I've been.
I always look at Julie because we've been
was before
here
I
to
was
do
here,
3 days a
and
couple
it's-
times, yeah.
I've been here 5.5 years, so it was before me.
Yeah, so it's been a while. We should have updated it a while ago. I think the main thing with that too, and also with College of the Desert is, I think we have a really unique opportunity to really make a cultural corridor there between now the Richards Center being renovated, the Camelot and the Cultural Center is doing so much now. The Supples have deeded that over. That's got a real future now. And then the campus going in, and if the library goes there, and the type of facilities they don't want to do with film and culinary studies, all that stuff, all could really be a really, really active part to have theater and film festival, which is already there most of the time, to really have a fully utilizable space that people know that you're either going to go to the Richards Auditorium or the Camelot or whatever's at the library, and you're going to the same space, you're just going within one side of the street to the other. So I really think that's my main thing to really be in support of a new building, is because we can make that. Honestly, we're not that far down the street. If we wanted to work with COD and we wanted a building, I mean, hell, the UCR campus, you walk farther to get to the library from the than you would to work from where the the Camelot is to us. But I think being on that location, sharing that with those students, and then having that ability to have that kind of activity there is really something unique and really could be special.
And I would just conclude with that, Councilmember Holsted, when you have that conversation, if you feel it would be really helpful to have this information, we've been compiling this information for this RFP to begin with. I can work with staff to, or all of us can gather enough information so that you tell us, have a conversation with COD about here's what we're thinking, here's where we're going. Happy to do that. So that would be an offer we can make to you.
Yeah, and that's really helpful. And so it's great that you're doing all of that work. And I do agree that I think COD should be at that table. And I would like to be at that table throughout that process. I'm sure Lisa would too. And so, not to speak for her.
We're a good team.
So obviously, I mean, this
And-
is a long-term plan, and
Yes.
so you have a difficult job. We all do, where we have to plan for the immediate future,
Right.
and then we have to do that long-term planning that would involve, different options for a building. So we need to do both at the same time.
And I just wanted to say, to interject, that I have the unique position, well, Lisa does too, Lisa Brock. We both worked at the Palm Desert Library, and I worked at COD too. I worked at the Palm Desert Library as a city librarian, and then I worked part-time at the COD Library in the same building. So I understand working with the college and how that works, and that multi-agency library. I don't think we should go to that level, but
That model, no.
that model. But there are experiences that I have in dealing with that I can bring to the table and say, I know what works and what doesn't work when it comes to working with the college.
And that's a whole set of conversation that I
Right.
know I've been informally listening to, that there are opportunities and challenges when you try to put a college library and a community library under the same roof. And one of the things that this body can do that none of us can do is provide some guidance as to what makes that model work, what are the things to avoid as we move forward, if that's ultimately the direction that we go.
And I've worked in a library system that also had an academic branch as well as with and I think that if there's some good news about this potential partnership, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, is that we will not be the main library for College of the Desert, which in library land, a main campus library is required to meet certain criteria, like numbers of journals, numbers of reference, in order to be certified as an academic library. I don't think that we'll have to have that in this situation, which means that we probably can be more public friendly, if that makes sense. And I've also had I don't know if you've ever been to the San Jose Public Library. They're a joint campus with San Jose State. And they've made that work for their community as well. So I think that there is successful, but there's also situations where it does become a tug of war, so.
Well, when I was at Maricopa County, we built 2 libraries on high school campuses. And they were public library branches that also served the students. We also built a library on a county park that also housed the staff from the recreation department who ran that park. So we had snakes and things. And it was really kind of interesting. So I understand how that, when you have joint things like that, how it works as well.
Christie, can we make a recommendation that as we are all exploring ideas here, that we set up just a general conversation with COD and maybe hear what their expectations are for a library? We kind of have an idea what ours are, but nothing is firmed, but at least it's a meet and greet and an opening that we really want to collaborate. What do you think, Lisa? And then wait till everybody's got the strategic thing together to really have the hard conversation.
I think City Council needs to weigh in on what would be the group that is working with COD. I think we also need to have at council some conversation as to what role, if any, Palm Springs Unified School District should have in these discussions, and then develop a committee that has enough people and enough representation to get all the important points of view, and not so many that we could never schedule a meeting because we would never
Get anything done,
Yeah. I think that to me is
Excellent.
comfortable. But to meet with them until we have really got our own plan, that's what, in my opinion, gets this board in trouble. We get a plan, we budget it, and we don't know where we're going, because it's hard to have a conversation here, and we get in big trouble with Brown Act if we don't. But we, as a board, really need to discuss our projects better. That is a personal feeling I have after being here for a while. So I am open to that meeting and that dialogue, and you're absolutely right. The key players around town should be there, and the rest of us should come and listen and support, but then we need to do our work here, right? We need this plan done and all the dreams and wishes.
If you
put
need
into-
us to come to a council meeting when you have that discussion, I'm sure I'll be happy to be there, and I'm sure the rest of the board would try and be there to support the idea.
You saw that the other night, didn't you? We didn't know who some of those people were, as a matter of fact, who came. Is that, we have a kind of a motion we need to go back to, but does that make sense to everybody to have sort of this general thing put together and see where all the people
Well,
are?
they've got to go to
Yeah.
the city, they've got to
We
talk to
have,
the
Okay.
we
city
have to do
council.
that.
So
One
that's
thing,
your
one
first
thing
step.
I
That's
would
the first step.
like
Okay.
to suggest to you, focus on what a new library should look like. And what happens to the existing building is frankly the responsibility of the city.
Correct.
And,
not ours.
no, it's not.
Although
you.
I have
Yeah,
some
I have-
suggestions.
I'm sure we
lots of
all,
ideas.
we all do, but the issue is, what do you need in a new building?
Exactly.
And we have an iconic building that needs work, and we will have to find a good public purpose for that.
I think, Lisa, if the issues that we find most cumbersome there are the plumbing, is the plumbing. If it were used as part of the city business buildings, it would not need as much tune-up as we have put into our plans to service our programs.
I think what she's saying, that's not our concern.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying,
It's not, it's,
And
The point-
What is your,
It is not.
absolutely
We've
your
said that all
concern
it's what a
along.
new building should look
is
like,
Yeah.
what
what,
should be in it.
projecting many months down the road.
Right.
Yes,
Assuming at some point there's an agreement, we're going to build a new structure, either alone or in conjunction with COD.
right,
Then there's going to be a target date that's going to be established. And those of you who built buildings before know that target dates are
they get moved.
they're targets,
targets.
they move.
So we're going to have a plan for how we do what needs to be done to make sure we keep a library open during that interim that serves the needs of the people of Palm Springs during that time. And that building has to have adequate plumbing, air conditioning, heating, and a roof that operates.
I think what would be liberating for this conversation, and I'm so glad you're here, is that when we begin the process of a strategic direction, having the group know that this is for our opportunity to dream big and identify what we need without constraints of what a building might look like, what building we might leave. We really have got to focus on what is our library going to look like 20 years from now, right? We wear them out. We had one for 40. We're going to wear this next one out too if we have a new one. So I think that this is very liberating and good direction. And we have to say to those, don't worry about those kinds of decisions. They'll come eventually. Now is our time to dream big. And the staff have had their wish list for so long about if we had this, what we could do. We just got to tap into that. So thank you.
Right, and I'm really here. I think both of us are here to listen to you and learn from your expertise. I'm not an expert in library services, right? And so that's what the city council will push back on some of those, you know, strategic dreams. And so you'll have the realism and some of those constraints added on. But yeah, we do want to hear, you know, I'm interested, and I would hope it would, your consultant will assess, you know, the age ranges and the geographic areas of your, you know, people who are using the services, all of those numbers and figures, so that you can really come to us with the best possible plan in your expertise.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion on the main library renovation?
Did you all want to make a motion now about the
I don't know,
renovation?
do we
Officially
need one?
reject this plan? Do you think we should?
I would move that we put on abeyance any plans to renovate the existing
That's
building
fine.
Until further answer.
until
Make it a motion. Make it a motion.
it is a motion.
I'll second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, that's good.
That I can vote on because I'm here. I couldn't vote on it in the minutes or anything because I wasn't here. So that I can vote on.
So 9B now, and again, you're more than willing to stay for the rest of the meeting if you like, Christie and councilpeople. And we're going to move on now to library fee updates. This is something the librarians have been working on. It's also something I brought up to them from a couple of articles I saw on various places around the country now are eliminating fines for books. By what they pay, and of course, Harry could probably speak to this better than I can, but what they pay for staffing and mailing and notifications, everything usually exceeds what they bring in revenue. Also, you're taking low-income people and students who, if they have a fine, are not able then to access the library. And that's my main point, is we're advocates for literacy, we're advocates for education, and if someone can't access because they owe that $5 and a quarter, because at $5 your account is blocked, that's not fair. That's not what the library or the city's about. We're about open access to that library. And the $9,000, I believe, in revenue we bring in from fines
Yeah, I have some numbers for you if you want.
is minimal in our budget. And if we eliminate that, we can find it somewhere else. But we're also then allowing just more access, I think is the
And
basic point.
can I add to that?
And
just-
actually, you can go ahead and do the report.
If you
on
look
it.
in your packets on page 27, that's really, we're updating the fees to also go in conjunction with
In the administrative manual.
Yeah, and this is, yes, the administrative manual. You don't have this, but the city implements a fee increase every year, and this year's increase is 2.5%. And so they have helped us calculate some of our fee increases, like, as an example, library card fees, room rentals, some of those things have just increased a minimal amount. But then to add to what Ron was saying, we're proposing to go fine-free for overdue charges. And I do have some statistics. Lisa was great in running some reports. And currently our children's accounts, 23% of kids' accounts are blocked at this time. 23% of the kids that have cards Lisa included some cards that have expired within the last 5 years, because what happens? They get blocked, they don't come back. And so these are cards that don't have lost items. These are just accounts that owe over $5. So 23% of our existing children's cards are blocked. In our adult category, 14% are blocked. Same statistics, no lost items, cards that have expired in the last 5 years, and current cards. We have 16,000 library cards, and so if you think about all those people, it's devastating to them. So what happens is, and staff time. When you think about the staff time to collect a quarter, tell me these numbers, Lisa. You wrote it down there. Did we talk about that? 37 cents a minute? 30 for our library assistants at their current salary, not including their benefits, their current hourly wage, it costs us 37 cents a minute to interact with someone, and it takes up some other libraries have estimated that it takes 10 minutes to deal with a fine, to negotiate or collect the fine or make notes or whatnot. So that's $3.70 to collect a quarter, or whatever it might be, if you look at it that way. So there are some, yes, we collect money, we make revenue on library fees, but we make more in printing income than we do in overdue charges and lost items and damaged items. So to counteract the going fine free, we would still mark an item lost after a certain time frame, and then assess a fee and send a letter. And then if they don't return it, if things get out of hand, we would send them to collections. And so there are some consequences. And then historically, people return it within a week of their due date. So it's not a crazy amount, and we all kind of let the due date flow a little bit ourselves. So, most people want to bring their stuff back. And then I read an article where families are saying, no, we can't go to the library because we won't be able to bring it back on time, and we're going to incur a fee, and we can't afford it. So we can't afford to go to the library, even though the library is free. So that's really sad. So this would eliminate some barriers to families who either just can't afford the fees or choose not to afford the fees. And so children would be our biggest benefactor of this, and then families, low-income families, regular income families,
Having managed a circulation desk in my career a long time ago, my staff hated me because I was the first one to forgive fines. You'd see these kids, and they would look at you like, you mean I can't have this book? And it's hard.
And you would let them take out the book.
I'd let them take out stacks. However, and I know you guys are going to throw things at me, but let me say this. I think that having attended the budget meeting the other day, just in the room next door, and the conversations that always go on in our community about not having enough money to pay for things, I think I caution this board and the staff on how we position this to make sure. The last time we wanted someone to say, we need $15 million and the library is giving away $9,000. Someone will say that, right? I think that using the data that you have gathered, showing that it does not bring people into the facility, and we're one of the last libraries in the valley to offer this. I think those kinds of things make sense, and we have to couch it that way, because I don't want someone to say that we're ignoring funds or fees that pay for something. I love the idea that we have other ways that we make money, more money. That's, to me, don't throw things at me. So.
No, that's okay. And I know Harry has experience with this.
Yeah, I've worked in libraries that went fine-free. Sometimes they're successful, sometimes they're not. Most of the time they were, but you have to keep on top of it and keep track of how there's a number of items that are not being returned going up, And in one library I was in, we reinstituted the fines, but they were huge increases. And we didn't include We
Thank you,
didn't
Lisa.
include children.
Thank you.
Lisa, Christie, wait a minute.
Thank you.
Thank
We put the fine against the parent. Because you can't sue the kid, but you can the parent.
That one time.
But I don't have a problem with trying it and seeing.
And that's another thing, if we try it and it goes sideways, we
You
can
can
always
always-
put it back.
Can always go back.
It was like a one-year trial program. It works, it works, it doesn't.
So, Ron, to answer your question about the amount that we earned, we have already implemented auto renewals to try to help people get their things back, or help them. There are so many arbitrary rules in library land, and we're like, why are DVDs not renewable when books are renewable? So we made DVDs renewable. And then if somebody doesn't want the item, why do we care if it doesn't auto-renew? So we made auto-renewals a thing, and that's been really successful, but it's also decreased our fees. In the last fiscal year, we brought in, for overdue charges and damaged and lost items, we brought in, in last year, we brought in more in fines and fees, but we've changed some things now. So we brought in $20,000 for fines and fees, and we brought in $17,000 for printing. Now, currently, this year, we have brought in less currently, this fiscal year, we brought in $9,900, which is the number you're referencing, $9,900 in overdue charges, but we've brought in $14,800 in printing at 25 cents a pop.
So I guess that's my question. I have my question about that. I'm sorry. I think it should be clear, and I know this, that when we say library cards for non-residents are non-California residents, correct?
That is true.
Anybody in California can use our library.
Absolutely.
As we all can.
Yes.
So I think that needs to be noted. These are people who are not in California,
Right.
right?
We cooperate with all California libraries, so anyone in California with a valid ID and valid whatever we need to get a library card can get a library card in Palm Springs. You don't have to live in Palm Springs proper, which is
Right.
what used to be the rule.
And snowbirds who are visiting from Canada, who may not have a residence here, they have to pay this to get a card.
Yes, they pay, and
We
we
changed
do
that
collect
when I
money.
was on the
Okay.
board, we changed that too.
The other
Except for
thing
the
too,
snowbirds.
25 cents for photocopies is still a good deal, right? I mean, what do you pay when you go out to, they don't have Kinko's anymore, do they?
Office Depot.
I mean, are we competitive there? Are we trying to not be competitive?
We're a little high.
We are?
But the fee had never changed since the beginning of photocopiers.
Okay, okay.
And so
It's convenience is what we're
it's
paying for.
okay,
Right.
and that helps us pay for the toner and the staff time, and we have to collect a fee for some things,
Okay.
and that's a convenience,
And,
yes.
and so if someone loses an item, we were saying that they're not gonna pay for that item?
No, they will still pay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just
we
that.
still would charge for damaged items, damaged cases, barcode replacement,
Sure.
all of those things, lost items, we still would charge for those. And so if someone doesn't bring something back, they might not get an overdue charge at 25 cents a day, but if they keep it too long, it will go lost, and they'll have to pay, they'll be charged for the full price of the item plus a $10 processing fee.
Unless
Is it
they bring it
11?
back.
$11.
Right.
And then, yeah, and, sorry, the processing fee is $11. It increased too. And, then if they do bring it back, then those fines would be waived.
And in discussing this with your boss,
Yes.
is their reaction to they support this? They being, I guess, the city you've had conversations with,
I did
are
have
they supportive?
conversations, and the benefit is that it would remove the barriers to service
Okay.
and access. And so, yes, it's an expense that, or an income that we would lose, but if you look at our total budget, it's a minuscule percentage compared to the total budget.
And also, not to be cynical, but I also think it's an excellent way, since someone else currently in the valley is doing this, right?
No.
We'd be
Lisa,
like
tell
on
us some of
point to
the-
trend, we'd also be on point for a good press coverage. I mean, we really would want to go to say, you know, we're not doing this just to do it and eliminate a funding choice, we're doing it to expand our services
Because
and expand our
23% of the
outreach.
children
That's
registered at the
powerful,
library
right.
can't use
That's
it.
powerful.
They can't
Because
use
they
it.
owe
That's
money.
so
Right, that has
sad.
to be the push on it, and
I
that's
mean,
what-
that's just,
And there are families that probably won't get a library card for their child because they know they're gonna incur fines, and they just don't even come in at all. So this will be a welcome back. And Lisa knows some of the cities, maybe, Salt Lake City,
Salt Lake City,
San Rafael.
San Rafael, San Diego's getting ready.
I think that's what I read the
San
article
Diego.
about.
They're getting
Yeah,
ready to
San
do
Diego.
it. There's a lot all over. This one only lists one in California, Alpine County, California.
Alpine County.
Yeah.
You don't have your microphone on.
Oh.
It just makes sense.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that we're.
Do you want
It is
a
a trend
motion? Do you
that's-
want to,
Well, you need to do a motion to accept the fee changes as a total,
I
or
would
if you
so
have
mo-
any
I would so
corrections.
move.
Okay.
And you can call for a second.
Nobody's
Did you
gonna-
second it, Ron?
Can I second it?
Of course.
Oh, I didn't think I could second it. Oh, that's right, I can. Yes, I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I always get confused on that point.
Thank you.
All right,
You're one of us.
very nice. So library policy changes. So this will be Jeannie, and I'll let her go over that.
Okay, so we have, in the same packet for the administrative manual, we try to only bring you our policy changes once a year to make it easier on you and us, and Julie has to revise the policy packet. And so we have just updated some of the language. We added an anti-bullying language. We've added a digital collections access policy. Do you have any other highlights? Yeah, I'm sure, hopefully you read it. Oh, one of the highlights is that we are hoping to rent the atrium as a rental facility. And so we had to add
We have now.
fees and calculate those and things.
So there's a couple things I want to draw to your attention. So this is the overarching policy for us, and then if, as these are approved or not, or whatever changes we decide to make, will be applied to Wellwood. So I want to make that clear. You're not going to get a duplicate thing here, because our code of conduct for our main library also is applied to what happens at Wellwood. It'd just be, changed to say Wellwood and so on. But that is why the room rental policy, why I'm even saying that, is because that's why it says meeting rooms, because we do have the Cornelia White meeting room, community room at the Wellwood that we also rent out. So all the fee changes will be applied to that. But then if you agree to these changes here, then we'll update the said forms and our policies online and so on. There is one addition that I need to give to you. I neglected to put in this last bullet. So this bullet would be added as the last one under serving alcohol is the last bullet currently on page 33 regarding the meeting rooms. And this regarding the insurance requirements by the city would be added into this policy. So that was a thing that I had done after I'd already sent out the packet, so I apologize. So it would just go right underneath that bullet about alcohol. This would now become the bullet for the insurance requirements. So
Linda, can I have one of those for Ashley? Like,
I can always get it.
or we can get one, but,
We're gonna add something back here.
so no. I should also let you know that no formatting things. We just put in what the changes were. Any formatting stuff will get cleaned up when. Yeah, just not. I know it's confusing, but I wanted you to see the actual changes. So if you have any questions about any of that, page numbers, all that kind of headings, all that kind of stuff. The updates to the actual date when you approve it will be done at that point. That's why you don't see that.
I have a question
Yes.
about page 27, the
Fabulous.
fines we just did.
Okay.
At the very end, it says, items are more than X days.
Yes.
Was that 10 days or?
we're
determining
TBD,
that.
to be determined.
Oh, all right.
okay.
I just saw that. and I
That's
thought,
funny.
I just thought you
"Since
meant
when do we
10
use
too."
That's so
Roman
funny. I was
numerals?"
looking at that earlier. I was like, nobody said anything about that.
I thought you were doing Roman numerals.
I read it.
We were in a frenzy to get this done before I went on vacation at the beginning of the month, and so we didn't say the days. We didn't set
Because
it.
we were investigating.
All right.
We're trying to figure out at what point will someone be blocked, and it's possible that they will be blocked if they're more than one day overdue, because their account will just automatically turn off. So,
All right.
We're still,
Not 10.
Yeah.
It'll be whatever.
yes, that X will
it
stand
may,
for
that
some
whole
reason.
sentence, if you are okay with us just working on the
Yes.
wording on that, we can fix that. We could just say, items are overdue, period. Because as soon as they're overdue, they're
Items are
blocked
overdue.
from checking out, right? Or do, we- or,
Once
do you have any
clarify by-
experience, Harry, with this?
To be determined.
No.
I'm
I mean,
okay with it.
we had rules, I don't remember what they were.
We don't know. We'll set it.
I've been gone 7 years, so I don't remember.
We'll set it and
I
forget
have,
it.
I have a question, and I've been looking for it, so please help me. It was brought to my attention by a member of the public who heard that I was a trustee, that they are in a nonprofit and they were not allowed to use a library facility for a meeting.
That's not true.
No, that's not true. We've used it.
Only if there are,
It's-
not because they were a nonprofit, I don't know who it is, but
Right.
it's possible that they wanted to meet when we were closed or wanted to meet when it was already reserved. There could have been
So
several.
there's no fees to meet?
There are
there's
fees.
fees.
They get a 50% discount. Nonprofit organizations get a 50% discount on the fee of renting the room.
I'm doing that right now with Desert Age Project. I haven't had trouble.
Yeah, so we
Well-
don't have free rooms though, unless they're,
It's a
unless it's a
nonprofit,
city
so
thing.
of course,
It's
even,
not free.
even a fee was a deterrent to them, and they felt like that was unfair. So what do you,
It's
if someone says that, what do you say to them?
It's an across-the-board city policy.
Okay,
And
The
the-
Parks and Rec have the same rental structure that we do.
And our
Thank
fees
you.
are
That's all I
set
need
by
to
The
know.
fees are
Our
minor
fees are really
compared to what you would pay to
set
go
by
to a
the city.
hotel or rent a room anywhere else. They're minor. Anyway. Yeah, I know what you.
Just understand.
Yeah.
And
No,
our room
$20
rental-
is a lot of
I,
money.
It's all good,
I
yeah.
move the
No, but-
approval of the policy
I
change.
second
Thank
it.
you.
And all in favor?
Does,
Aye.
Hold on, wait.
Jeannie, do you need permission from anybody else other than this board? Does this subcommittee need to see these?
No, the
or-
policies are your policies.
Okay.
You direct the policies. The fees will go to city council in their full budgeting
Yeah.
and fee structure. So that's such a gray area. You're essentially giving a recommendation at
Yeah.
that point on the fees, but.
All right,
Right.
so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mhm.
90 Main Library Art Sculpture.
Okay.
There we go.
that's,
Okay.
So, what I have to report to you about that is that we aren't much further than where we were before.
I knew you were gonna say
I
that.
feel it.
Still in storage.
I've tried. Okay, so where's the email that I'm sure I just, oh, here it is.
Yes.
I would like to read to you. Okay. So, the last time that we had communicated in February, I was told that, they were contacting a local already, approved vendor with the city who already had insurance and so on to get a bid. And then the bid was gonna be presented to library staff, and then library staff would decide where to take that bid, or if we had money in our own budget, or whatever the case may be. We would assess it, basically. We have not received said bid. So I asked for an update about the status of the bid. And I was told that the bid is coming, they've requested a status on the bid from that particular vendor, and they have scheduled another vendor to obtain an alternate bid next Thursday. So, I have news that supposedly 2 bids are on their way to us. After next Thursday, I will follow up again and ask, if we have those bids or what, what's the status. But other than that, it is still secure in the city facility, and we are still waiting on the bid.
It'll look really nice at the new building.
We're supposed to say that out loud. If it's ready by then.
Yes, if it's ready by then.
Well, I don't think we can get any further on that unless anybody has any questions.
Well, it's a small piece of business, but it's an important piece of artwork. And we might have to go above the little art, not little, but the art person, and see if we can't.
No, I think we
Get a little bit
should
of
go
help.
with the city process.
That is the city process.
Jennifer's the one who's
That is the city process. Yeah. And are you saying that this will be a budget item for the trustees?
Not necessarily,
Yeah,
no. We're
that's-
waiting just to get the bid, whatever it is, and then
Okay,
Jeannie will.
yeah,
We'll see how much it is. We don't even know how much it will cost.
Right.
okay.
Who knows?
So let's move on to library board bylaws, and I believe Ed wants to give us a report.
No, I think that.
No, I have that, and
Linda, I'm sorry.
we've waited about 6 months on these, and they're in the hands of the city attorney, so I emailed him yesterday afternoon. and did tell him that I'm on the agenda today and could he send the bylaws to me. And so I have several communications. You received them too, Jeannie, from him?
I didn't have a chance to
Yeah.
look.
Anyway, there are some things he's still working on, and for the most part, I would say the changes we have asked are in line with his sounds good is his comment. There's a couple of things here I need to look at the bylaws and see what he's talking about. I didn't have time to do that. There is a comment that I'm not really sure what he meant by it, but it was that both of our subcommittees would have some input and communication about the bylaws. I need you to read that last piece to me. So I hope maybe by next meeting we have them in front of us with the corrections and the updates, and we'll be ready to go.
As I would just say, I've said this to Linda, we've just got to get this done before we start a strategic plan. Let's have this off our list, because we can say in that planning, we're a legit group. We're working by our bylaws and we're doing what we're supposed to do. Let's just get this done.
Well, you're currently a legit group, and you have bylaws, but you just want to make some changes.
Yes.
I do. I'm just
All right.
being funny.
I'll look forward to getting that finalized, and then now let's move on to the Wellwood Patio Landscape Historian Report. I think you all got that ahead of time in an email, so if we've all read it. I mean, I thought the reports were interesting. I don't think that they were necessarily necessary, because it's pretty much the same
That was my,
information that Linda and I got through the Historical Society. However, we want to be partners with HSPB, and that is what they requested, and that is what we have done. I think the report is interesting. I mean, the only thing that I really got out of it is that the trees weren't original, were only planted in the 80s by Mr. Westman when he did the building next door. I did not know that. His other comments about the patio tiles, I would ignore that because it matches now what's across the street, and that's what we were trying to tie in. I don't necessarily see why you put a big fig tree back in the middle of the patio. Other than that, I didn't see anything really in the report that was really changed the plan tremendously. So I haven't heard back if HSP has reviewed it. I don't know if we've gotten anything back, if it's gone. I've tried to turn the HSBB thing on TV a couple times and tape it. I haven't seen where they've discussed it at all. So I don't know if it's gone back to them with the report.
Let me look at the date that they meet. I wrote it on my calendar.
And so we now just need to get their approval to move forward to council.
Linda, did you want to mention the handout that you shared with the group?
Well, I did, and I've given this a lot of thought because I'm there 2 days a week, and I know what's going on there and how the patio is used. And I made some comments, and I would really like to put them down for the record. And if you bear with me, I would appreciate that. But Mr. Kinnon's report asked what's the intended use of this patio. That's kind of his summation. And I have to honestly say and personally feel that, again, this board hasn't totally come to what that use is going to be. There are a lot of creative ideas floating around, but we haven't, in my opinion, really said this is the final usage for this area. The landscaping on the patio in the front of the library was to have been completed with the Wellwood Murray remodeling project, but due to overrides, it never got completed. So we're stuck with what we have. For me, I see 3 needs. The first one is the completion of the ADA sidewalk, non-compliant sidewalk existing on the south side of the library. And to my knowledge, the only city plan is included in our architectural plans that we submitted to HSPP. City has not submitted to this board the city's share for the cost of their responsibility to correct this issue.
Well, they have, actually.
yeah.
Yeah, they already done
You
that.
saw that?
Well, David agreed to that way back, and they
Yeah.
said that in that meeting when we had the subcommittee meeting, that they
Okay.
that $60,000 the city
Yeah,
would be
they're
paying
gonna
for.
pay for it.
Right.
Okay.
I
Then,
didn't hear 60.
Oh, I remember
Maybe
the total,
30.
something, I can't remember what the
Yeah,
total was.
so they are going to take care of that entryway sidewalk. Okay, that's fine with me because that is not our responsibility. The second is the need for gates on both the west and east side, west and east entries. And this is essential. Gates cannot be attached to the outside walls of the library, nor the glass front of Ben and Jerry's. These gates are to be closed at the after library hours. However, businesses along Palm Canyon and Talkwith need to have access because this is the pathway to the common dumpster on the east side of the library. And that alone is a discussion, the dumpster and the gate on
Well, they don't need to
Talkwith.
go through the patio to get to the dumpster, they go through the gate on the other side. They shouldn't be going through the patio in the first place with their garbage.
But that is, but the reality, I'm telling you the reality, that is the pathway. And I watch the merchants bring their boxes and the restaurants bring their trash through the back and use the dumpster. Okay. So I think gates there should be functional and not ornate, plain and simple, as they will be pulled back, not against the building, but will stand there for the day. So we're okay. Third is the safety of city employees, staff, patrons, and visitors who sit or walk in this area. After a meeting with Stacy Schaefer, I changed my opinion about the gravel ground cover now on the patio. Ms. Schaefer stated that the cleaning crew that comes in at 3 in the morning often encounter needles and other hazardous items as they try to rake this area clean. Therefore, I support the use of hard tile surface and, in my opinion, wall-to-wall. These are needs, not wishes. My wish would be the proposed ideas in Mr. Kinnon's report for the patio. Clean, neat, inviting, and historically sound. Everything he has stated in his report are ideas that I have talked to all of you before about the patio. I totally support the removal of the overgrown trees in the back. They add no shade. They're not visibly attractive, and they need care by the city crew. With any plantings we put in, we should remember the limited city crews that take care of the landscaping. I would support the planting of new trees, more center or to the sides of the courtyard. Olive, Palo Verde, something that would provide a beautiful appearance. Take a look at the Palo Verde in front of City Hall. That's messy, and we have to think about water usage for trees there. I have a patron who would donate the cost of the new trees, if possible. The terracotta paving wall, rather than having plants grow along the base of a wall, eliminates water lines, which are costly. And over the years, having lived here long enough, when you have plantings at the base of your home, eventually you get stucco, plaster damage, and termites. Just a thought. I support his suggestions for materials, plantings, and keeping the historical look of the time. I would also support ficus trees in front of the air conditioner. Once again, the city crews would have to keep them trimmed and topped so they just don't grow like topsy, which they do. It would also allow air to go through. By keeping it plain and simple, it could be available for any function. Whenever we have functions, we bring chairs, tables, umbrellas, potted plants, whatever. If this area were clean and open and usable, that's very possible to have a function back there. There is no plan in his report that I saw for the front, and here I would really put more effort in beautiful lighting, appropriate plantings, and ground cover. In conclusion, however, this project has got to get off our agenda. And my recommendation, Ron, would be exactly what you're saying. Your subcommittee and maybe somebody from Historic Sites meet, talk about the two plans that we have going, look at what is really feasible and possible to get done, do some rough drafting before we go back to the city and ask for another update on our third drawing for Wellwood. And those are my thoughts about that.
Well, currently, I don't have any plans on asking for any changes. We've approved the changes. We've talked to everybody else. We've had the architect make the changes we want. I go back to HSPV and talk to the report, but say, well, we don't plan on making any changes to that plan. I don't want to make any more changes to that plan. We've gone and changed that plan over and over and over again. What he's presented is beautiful. It's exactly what you're talking about. Everything in the front will be done, all the lighting will be done, beautiful open patio space, screening, gates, access. That's all it's.
You really don't want screening on the air conditioner, do you?
Well, I mean, that's what's initially planned, is to take screening and put around that. But we could do plantings, we could do, those things are, again, those are minor tweaks. The main thing is get HSPB to approve it so they can go to council, and then we can put this thing out to
And
bid.
do it.
But it has to stay on our agenda because we need to discuss it as a board.
Okay,
I don't
but-
want it just to be 2 people on the subcommittee. It needs to be this whole board talking about that project, just like we do with the LED sign, just like we do with the sunscreen. It's a project, we're paying for it, we need to talk
Yeah,
about it
I
at every
agree.
meeting.
I
We need to
agree.
review the budgets, we need to review the direction of the landscaping, we need to keep pushing them on this project, because it's already 7 years past due.
Yes,
And it needs to
exactly.
get done. I mean, that's the only reason I'm pushing on this thing so hard. And honestly, even this delay, even though this is great, has delayed us 3 months on this
Yeah, but-
lousy $350 for this report.
Obviously-
I mean, it's great, but again, what do we need that delay for?
Obviously, they didn't like what they saw. And as you had said at the last meeting, we respect them
Well, I don't think they
as a
said they didn't
commission.
like what they saw, they just asked for a historian's report. And the historian's report is the way I read it. He had those few comments about what the original was, but he wasn't against anything of the
No.
initial plan that we were presented. He just said this is what was historically there. We like what you're doing here. He just said some of the plantings are a little more modern. Well, yeah, because we do want to have sustainability. We do want to have low drip. We do want to have anything that's going to damage buildings. We're way ahead of what they would have done in the 40s
Exactly.
between planting grass and petunias. You know, so that's what we want to maintain. And yeah, we want a nice open space where we could have concerts, invite seminars. We could do receptions for our events. Film festival could do things there. Modernism could do things there.
Or it would just sit
It's a-
there and look nice.
Yeah, it's a public area. I mean, it does not necessarily have to have a designated purpose. It's a public park that's adjoining the library. Nobody says that our public park at Sunrise has a purpose. It's a park. It's an access, it's, a facility for the people to use.
And we have plenty of uses that we could use it for,
Yeah.
and so we've identified them over the years. And so, yes, story times, concerts, gatherings, rentals.
I just have
So
two
what do we
quick
do to
questions.
get,
I have two, I'm
Well,
sorry,
I
no,
d-
two quick
Go
questions
ahead.
for you. I'm
Ed
sorry.
first.
So I met Mr. Keelan at the recent HSPB event. He was working the HSPB table.
Oh, right.
As a matter of fact. And it was just after we got this, so I assume and I know he's associated with the HSPB for sure, so that's my first comment. Second, if they come back and say, and his comment to me was he thought our plan looked fine, we're probably spending more money than we probably need to for what we need to do, but he said that wasn't my charge.
Right, of course.
He had that comment. But if the HSPB comes back and says, we want you to take this into consideration, what do we do? I mean,
Well,
can
we
they-
will.
Can
We
they
can-
torpedo something that we have done already?
Well, I mean, I can take it into consideration, but we'll do exactly what we did when we did the interior of the building. We'll go to city council, and then they'll decide.
Okay.
That's exactly what we did.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a whole list of things they did not like about the interior, including the book lampshades and all the rest, and we all went and spoke, and, I spoke and said the same thing that I say about this. It's like, these are aesthetic choices, and, I can say that I don't like your pink tie, but that doesn't mean that everybody else can tell you can't wear a pink tie.
I just
So
say,
the point
can we
is-
get this off our agenda and get it done?
Well, boy, but I've been trying to do that for
I'm all
7
about
years, believe
I
me,
wanted
so.
to add, the HSPB next meeting is May 8th at 9 a.m. in this very room, large conference room. And then Linda, I was mentioning, this is a handout that Linda brought, correct? You handed this out.
the
This is
thing
from
about-
Melba Bennett.
I really, I thought his report gave us recommendations.
Right,
And-
but I'm
and-
talking about-
Right, and different plantings and areas for plantings. And so I am going through all of Melba Bennett's boxes and boxes of correspondence, and it's a long story, and she's writing letters back to the board as she traveled around Europe looking at great libraries. And in looking at some of her letters, this came back, and you can see there was juniper there, yellow lantana, orange bougainvillea, olive tree. And so when we're talking about putting in big pots of plants in the spaces Westman had there, I think maybe some of these things could be used very nicely there at a much lesser expense. And so this is historically information, and she also said she'd put a keep off the grass sign down here too.
I love the
You
grass.
have to dig very hard.
Yeah. Well, there was originally.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, even when I first moved here, I remember that olive tree.
Yes.
And I remember the grass in the back.
And there are other people who think there was a magnolia tree there.
Yeah.
Will Kleindienst does.
There were hedges there. There were
And
big
Kitty,
hedges.
well, in the back patio. And I think what you have to remember, the back patio was wide open. It didn't have the Westland
Right.
building with
Yeah.
the hookah lawn chair and the rusted out air conditioners above you.
Right. Exactly.
All
So
right, are we
if you
moving on
clean
with
the-
it?
Yeah, I think we're already.
Oh,
already
thank you,
on.
Harry.
I don't think there's any
got
action
a long
required.
agenda.
No, there's no
I
action
know, but
required.
we have things to discuss when we come
No
here.
action.
But honestly, I'm not, again, I think we've already discussed all this repeatedly. I don't want to say, now I'm going to replace the pots. I don't want to say, now I'm going to
No.
take out the trees. Because then what we do once more is we delay this process. And we've
we
gone
spend
over and
money.
over and over this
Yeah,
for
but
so long.
I think you
Every
have a
time we redo
budget, and
what
unfortunately,
we-
you were not here, and the board really approved this budget and no more. So if you have overrides, you're gonna have to come back and talk to us
I've got
about it.
$150,000. I'm not worried about overrides.
Okay.
I'm worried about
I
getting it
hope you're
built.
correct, and
Yeah, I really was
can
looking
you
at that.
get a meeting going, or set?
Well, I'm just waiting back for Marcus to come back and tell us what HSPB did. and
Then we
move
pay
on to council.
Marcus to come here and talk to us.
No,
Well, he'll tell
we're,
us.
we're working on, I think we're working on, the next step is to try to get a meeting with the HSPB subcommittee
Yeah.
and the Wellwood Patio
Yeah,
subcommittee.
that's what I think too,
So yes, it would be a subcommittee, it wouldn't be your whole board, but
right.
I
That's
think
fine.
that's the next step. Because
Alright.
there's no sense in
But
them having a
my-
meeting
That
to
is-
discuss this and you having.
shovels out
Right.
there and
I know.
digging that.
But my whole
Yeah.
point is unless the city council
nighttime
wants to make
plantings.
specific changes to that plan based on their
That's-
recommendations, that's what should happen.
That's it.
As far as us, we've discussed it. Foundations have discussed it, Friends have discussed it, we've had meetings, we've had subcommittee meetings, we've had council meetings. And as far as I'm concerned, I am done. This is the way it's gonna look as far as I
I'm
am
with you.
concerned.
It is
Anybody
your-
else that
it
wants to
is your
change it
project.
on the city council, change it away. I'm not gonna go in there and nitpick on this stuff because I want to see it done. I don't really care if it's a juniper plant or a magnolia tree at this point. It should have gotten done a long time ago. We've, taken this on as an issue and we need to get it done. And hopefully we get it done in time with the street across, when everything's done across the way. So I think now we just move on and have that meeting and then, we gotta
The
get this
building
thing out to a
wasn't there
bid.
at that time.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on now to our
Yeah.
committee reports, unless we have any further comments. So, report from the Advocacy Committee, at this point, there really is nothing with Ashley and I, except we are going to be doing a reception for Desert AIDS Project on May 24th in the atrium for our major donors, 200 people. And it will be about advocacy, and part of that, as president of the library board, I want to get up and also say that our advocacy is Palm Springs Speaks and literacy, and we'll have a table there for Palm Springs Speaks, we'll have a table there for the Friends, and use that as part of our advocacy for people. Probably 150 of those 200 donors have never seen the inside of that library. So that's the point. Let's bring them in and show them the library. Right. May 24th, Thursday.
It's amazing.
It's immediately
I-
following your your next
Right.
board meeting.
And I meant to bring you all invitations. I did give some to Julie, but I'll get them out in the mail to you this week. Yeah, because you're a partner for life. Right now, that basically is advocacy. Advocacy to me at this point is Palm Springs Speaks. That's been our real push as far as trying literacy. So we'll continue with that, and we're in the planning stages again of that for next year. We have another one coming up with Andy Weir, who wrote The Martian, on June 7th. Which tickets are available for now. And then we just finished one with Debbie Miller on Alaska, which was just kind of a pop-up and a thank you. Friends, we had a nice turnout for that as well. Beautiful presentation. Cultural Center's been great to work with, so we'll continue that. I'd like to see us do a lot more with literacy around these kind of things. We'll get to that report in a second.
Andy Weir, though, is not part of our series. It's a new ticket, right?
It's a summer bonus.
Summer bonus.
What does
so
that
it's-
mean?
So it means you pay.
You buy a ticket.
I don't mind buying a ticket, but I
It's
mean.
$25 and, or $50 for VIP reception and a book. So it's a lower price for the summer, and $50 gets you VIP seating, VIP reception, and a book. The $25 gets you a ticket to get in, and then you can buy the book yourself.
I wasn't sure if that was part of our series. but it's not.
We tweaked it a
No.
little for this one because he was great. He's coming out. He's basically charging us nothing, so it's great. I mean, very little, let's say, but he's being very cooperative to come out and do it. And
From LA, right?
yeah, so it should be great. I'm looking forward to that. He wrote a wonderful book. It should be popular. June, against a hard time out here, but
Well, and he's doing it as a special
Yeah.
fundraising because he's very supportive of this process
Yeah.
for us. So we're excited to be doing that.
And it's a great book if you haven't read it, The Martian or the movie you've
Or
seen. But the
Artemis
book was
is
really
his
good.
new book.
And his Artemis was equally good. Jeannie and I both read Artemis in like a day, I think.
Yeah, I've heard him speak, and he is funny and
I've heard him speak.
smart and a great speaker. So it's a nice program, and I think that the book Artemis will eventually become a movie.
Oh,
I could just,
definitely.
when I read that book, I could just see the movie playing in my head. It was really well written.
Well
The
done.
last one was wonderful. Lisa Scaloni was amazing.
That's great.
I brought guests, and they all walked out of there thinking that was a wonderful.
She was probably one of
Yeah.
the best of the
Oh.
other than Al Gore.
Yeah, and it's not, we're not on the right topic, but Lisa Scottolini's book, After Anna, that we just gave out at her event, debuted #2 on the New York Times bestsellers list. So she's got a really good reputation and writing some really great stuff. And if you missed out, I am sorry.
Yes, exactly.
Look for our new
Trust us
lineup.
that we have good taste. If you might not have heard of them, but trust us,
Trust
they're
us.
interesting. So now let's move on to the report from the Budget Committee,
No report?
report from the Buildings Committee.
Had that one, haven't we?
Yes, I think we have. Report from Policies Bylaw Committee, I think we had that one too. Literacy Ad hoc Committee, I just kind of threw in with advocacy. Strategic Planning, I think you did that too. And the Wellwood. So now I think we can move on to report from the staff representative, and I can make it to Tropical by 5 o'clock.
Awesome.
That's why I'm working tonight. Dining out for life, people.
The funniest thing that I do this all the time. I'll print my report and then I leave it on the printer. So someone had to go in and take a picture and text it to me. So here we are looking at my report. So we did not have a meeting in March, so I wanted to report to you that our Family Fun Fest, it was our 5th annual Family Fun Fest, was a tremendous success. We're counting 1,000 people attending that.
Wow.
Non-stop. There was a huge, thank you. There were a huge line at the library booth, and we had more than 20 vendors participate. Community organizations come out to talk about services to children and things that they do in the community, all kinds. It was wonderful, so we're very thankful to our vendors and community groups, community partners. Thank you. We're like Veep. She can just whisper in my ear. Tell me what's going on. Our next major, well, we have an event. No, we had an event last night. We have an event coming up, our PSPL Comic-Con, Comic Convention. We do our own at the library, and we have received permission from the official San Diego Comic-Con. We are a registered trademark, licensed organization or group. We're a licensed Comic-Con. So we are having an all-day, it's complex. Where do you put that registered trademark in the graphic? So we did that. Comic-Con, May 19th, all day, 10 to 4. We're going to take over the entire library. We're even considering handing out earplugs for people who want to come and study. There won't be much studying going on at the library that day because we're going to have all kinds of activities. We're going to have a drawing workshop, gaming, costume contest, crafts, comic book store, the Palm Springs Comic-Con group is coming, all kinds of things. Any other
Character appearances, Artist Alley.
possible character appearances, Artist Alley, prizes, giveaways. Everybody gets a little tote bag while supplies last. Parking while supplies last. It's going to be all day, so it'll be fun. Saturday, May 19th, 10 to 4. Great event. Wear your costume. We're looking for volunteers, possibly. Adult programming, what do you have going on? I have a blank.
Okay. Well, we are winding down this season, so we do have a movie that we'll be showing called Mixed Match about the challenges of finding blood marrow donors for mixed race people and all that. So that's on May 2nd at 6:30 at the Learning Center. It's a Wednesday. And then we have our book clubs and our computer programs and things winding up. And we will shift gears after mid-May to go into summer readings. So we're winding the season down.
Did I miss the drag?
Nope.
Now, May
Wait,
8th?
wait.
Yeah.
That was the one thing I was like,
May 9th, May 9th, May 9th. With Miss
Dun-da-da-da.
Bella DeBall, the most popular person in Palm Springs, and a total sweetheart.
This
Brian
is going to be
Watson.
so much fun. Wednesday, May 9th, Bella DeBall will be at the library, and we are doing Drag Queen Story Hour.
Which is
And-
very popular around the country, by the way. So we're not like we're doing it just because we're a drag queen capital or something.
And then June 6th, we're doing 2 to start with. And so May 9th at 6 p.m. All ages are welcome. It's a family program. We invite families to come and have a good time. It's a wonderful program. Who wouldn't want to have fun with a drag queen? It's so much fun. It's so fun. Wait. Okay, fine. This is going to be fun. It's going to be fun. And then we do a craft at the beginning. We're going to do a tiara, a crown, or a wand. You can choose to make whatever you want. We're going to have stories. We could make both, I guess, all of it. And then at the end, there will be a dance party. So there's always a dance party. We're following the official Drag Queen Story Hour
Probably as a
program.
volunteer.
It's a nationwide program. It started in San Francisco. They've got one in Brooklyn. There's a Facebook page. Our events are on there. We're official. It's going to be fun. Bella is amazing. Ever the professional. So Drag Queen Story Hour for all ages. Please bring children, though. That would be fun. And then we have a new program that we are starting in partnership with the Friends of the Library. The Friends have received a grant. Thank you, Lisa Brock, for writing the grant and managing it. Career Online High School. We got a matching grant from the California State Library, and we were awarded 5 libraries in the state this time. Just 5, 1 of 5. So we have received 10 scholarships. So if any adults are looking to get their high school diploma, they should go to our website.
And it's not a GED, it's an actual
It is.
diploma.
That's correct. It is not
That's
a GED.
the point of it.
And the point of it is people who have a high school diploma earn roughly 25% more than those who have a GED, according to the census. The website to visit this is palmspringslibrary.org/diploma. So, or visit our website, palmspringslibrary.org, and then there's a link for Career Online High School. It also has a career track that goes along with it. So when you graduate, you have a high school diploma, but you also have a career certificate that you can take out and show to employers, and that might help you get a job in that career.
It's a wonderful program.
We're very excited about that. It's live, but it's launching May 1st. Next week, the big launch. I will be on Eye on the Desert, May 1st. I will also be at Main Street, May 1st, talking to them. I'm hoping to go to 1PS in May. So if any of your service organizations need me to come and speak to you, I'm happy to come and speak to you about this program. If there are any businesses in town who have employees who need high school diplomas and would love to sponsor scholarships targeted to their employees, we'd be interested in talking to you as well, because we expect that these 10 scholarships will go and be successful. And then we'll have a graduation ceremony,
Oh, wonderful.
caps and gowns. It's just wonderful. We're very excited about it. Like Ed said, Ron said, Andy Ware is coming, author of The Martian and Artemis, on June 7th. And, yeah, thank you. Ew. Also, in case you haven't seen The Martian and would like to brush up on your Martian trivia and whatnot, come to the library on June 2nd for a film screening. And this is part of our summer programming. It's not? Whatever.
Just,
Part of our program.
it's supporting Eddie Weir's appearance, and so we're going to show the extended version of The Martian, and also have a book discussion and kind of compare and contrast the book and the film, led by our librarian Scott Began.
Glad it's not led by me.
And then we're going to give away a pair
read
of
the book.
tickets to one lucky attendee
Ooh.
to attend the Andy Weir event. So
Go.
come and brush up on all things Andy, and then possibly win a ticket
Yes.
on Saturday, June 2nd
At 1:30.
at 1:30.
Yes, thank you. See? Wonderful. Back to my teeny tiny notes. That's really it. I just wanted to thank everybody who came up to Lisa Scottolini. It was a wonderful event. She's a hoot and a great speaker, and we are working on the lineup for the next season. And if, the caliber of speakers that we've had, we have to keep up that caliber, and I know we will. And, one of those, what Ron said, trust us. you might not recognize the name. We really are planning to have name recognition speakers. But if you don't particularly know the person, trust us, you will and you'll like them.
Which Lisa Scully was that was the only one out of the 4 that we did that people kept saying, who's that? And I kept saying, well, she sold 100 million books. She's
And if it was in Philadelphia, she would have been an instant
She's
sellout.
very much more of an East Coast type of writer in recognition, but she was just funny and witty and charming and great talk. I mean, didn't need a moderator, didn't need anything. And so I hope that's the kind of people we want. You know, it's not necessarily you want Stephen King because he's Stephen King. If he doesn't speak well,
They all three.
you know, I don't care.
Yeah,
You know,
they
he
all
needs to
three
speak
were
well.
different, and they all three were really fun.
Yeah.
All of them, or
So we-
interesting.
Yeah. So we were very, very
Yeah.
lucky this year.
Yeah.
And anything else? Then report from the Library Foundation liaison. Anything?
Peter.
Peter? How you doing, Peter? Sorry to keep you all the time. We should put this closer to the beginning of the meeting, maybe.
Push the button.
My button, okay. Good afternoon. Thank you for including me on the agenda. It's always fun to be with you because the passion about libraries, no matter whether it's about new books, large print, or handicap ramp at Wellwood, the passion comes through. So, at the risk of being a little redundant, I will tell you what happened at the last foundation meeting. Although you all know from reading the newspaper that the big thing that happened was the change with COD acquiring the mall location. The reason that that's big for the foundation is that 2 of our founding members of that committee have a connection to COD, and as a result of legal opinions, those 2 people have resigned from the foundation board. That's Fred Yount and Joel Kinnaman, both of whom were really dedicated to this project. So there will be an event in mid-October to thank them for their service, and likely to be at Smoke Tree. So, that brings our board down to 7 or 8 people, and it leaves the other remaining original board member as the interim chair. I think Harry was out of town that day.
The doctors.
So we are in a very active and aggressive push between now and the middle of September to expand that board to double the membership, with the idea that sometime in the fall, your strategic plan will be done. The city will have decided what it looks like as far as building a new building or partnering with somebody else, and we need to be in a position to do that. We have sort of strategized how to organize that board with the kinds of people, the professions or expertise that people bring to the table. You know, we need a lawyer, we need an architect, we need an accountant, those kinds of things. Without knowing exactly what the city will decide, we are really pushing forward to be ready for an answer, rather than getting an answer and saying, gee, now we better get ready. So my experience in building buildings is limited, although I built a couple of pretty good sized ones, but nothing like Harry or Ed. But buildings have a gestation period. You got to hire an architect, you got to have stakeholders meetings, you got to mulch it all together, comes back in several different revisions. And I think no matter what you do, it takes 3 to 5 years to build a building. So we're not going to have it up next year. If you have anybody that you'd like to recommend that either Ed or I talk with as a potential board member for the foundation, would you please let me know, because this summer we'll be doing a lot of iced tea in the courtyard at Coffee and other places, trying to convince a couple of people to join the board who have the expertise that we need. So other than that, I think that's all I can really report. I did meet with Lisa, but you know that, so.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
All right. Trustee comments and requests. Anything?
Make a suggestion.
Yes?
Move the Foundation's report on the Friends of the Library report.
I think that's an excellent idea. I think we
said
should,
that last time.
yeah, I think we should definitely do that.
So we should move it up.
So we
Any
don't-
visitor.
Don't keep
should
them waiting
be
all that time, yeah,
notified.
exactly.
That's right.
And anything else?
Yes, I want to just give a great shout out to Yvonne Navarro, an employee at the library who does the beautiful decorations that you see. And Irene,
Yes.
right, we had a discussion. The fun day was unbelievable with Jeannie as in her costume, and it was wonderful. That woman presents beautiful things every time you come in there. That's over and above the call. And also, Scott Beacon got a stand-up award at the last book club, mainly made up of tourists and winter visitors, and they just applauded him. He leads very interesting and thought-provoking, and so both of those employees should really get accolades for their work.
Thank you. That's great to hear good news.
As well as you three.
Exactly. All right, and that, I think we are adjourned.
Thank you all.
Good meeting you.